Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So in this video we're going to have a look at the 5 hurdlers and their handicap marks that caught my eye this week. There's actually no horses over fences, so chasers that I was interested in, so there's only the one thread and video this week about this. I will also talk about a horse for a little bit about the Coral Cup and the Martin Pipe, and where I think horses are running based on what they've connections have said since or recently. So we'll start off with the horses that caught my eye. The first one was Whiz Kid. Obviously I highlighted him as a horse I liked for the weekend, and also suggested that it was the time of year that they wanted to get him up a little bit in the handicap to make sure they got in at Aintree. They have. They did get the win. Sorry, he's got up £2 to 124, which is £1 lower than when he was fourth last year, behind Hacker de Place, who was top rated, Severance and Washington. Now, I know Severance and Washington haven't quite gone on, but I thought this was a good race on the day, and I still think Severance and Washington will win races. Whiz Kid just got his nose in front at Doncaster. Luke probably rides again, takes the weight off. He should go to Aintree with a big chance, so he's one to watch out for when he returns to Aintree in April. I made this tweet, I tagged in the trainer, I didn't tag in the owners, but interestingly they replied with, where's their tweet, a winking face regarding the race at Aintree. So I imagine that is where he's going to go. It was back here when he finished, nope, it was this one here. You see, he'd only had a couple of runs, 3 runs before that anyway. So yeah, I really like Whiz Kid with that run under his belt. Second horse I want to talk about is One More for the Road, who dropped £2 to 128. Now, he was beaten just 1 3/4 lengths off an £8 higher mark last year in the Scottish Champion Hurdle. I suggested at the weekend that I didn't think they would be going for it at Newbury. He wasn't beaten far, I think he was beaten 2.5 lengths back in 5th, but the handicapper was kind and dropped him another £2. Yeah, if he turns up in this Scottish Champion Hurdle, which is a handicapper air, he's got to go really close, hasn't he? He finished 4th in the Imperial Cup last year at this time of year, so I think they like him in the March-April, and whilst it was March when he ran at Newbury, there was no reason to go for that at all. Because of the poor prize money, whereas the Scottish Champion Hurdle, there's definitely a reason to go for it. So, One More for the Road, who, as you can see, finished 3rd behind Anna Bonina and West Cork, who, obviously if West Cork turns up, he would be very interesting as well, because he's crazily well handicapped as well. Let's hope just one of them turns up and not both. The third horse I want to talk about is Tritonic, who ran okay for 5th in the Moorbattle Hurdle. You can see he's finished 5th here, he's finished 8th in a Betfair Hurdle. He finished 9th when they stepped him up in trip, that didn't work. But then if you go back to his previous hurdle runs, 23rd in the County Hurdle, 11th in the Betfair Hurdle, 4th in a hurdle race at Kempton. I think that was a Christmas hurdle maybe. But then if we go back to his handicaps, he was 5th at Cheltenham in a Greatwood, and he won at Ascot in the Betfair Exchange Trophy. Now, that's kind of where I think he's got to go. I think the Betfair Hurdle, you can see he's finished 8th and 11th in Betfair Hurdle. So he's not a Betfair Hurdle horse. So I'd take those runs out. And you can start, this is what I like to do. I like eliminating runs to find out whether the horse is still good enough to win races. And I don't think 2.5 was the right trip. So I'd cross that race off. 8th in the Betfair Hurdle, cross that race off. So we've then got a County Hurdle where he was 23rd. Okay, Cheltenham probably isn't his bag either, or the Cheltenham Festival isn't his bag. We then go to Newbury, again we're crossing that race off, and then we're back to Kempton for the Christmas Hurdle and Ascot where he won. So it's not that long ago that he actually ran in a race that suits him. Surely that's where they go again, isn't it? He's now down to 135. He won the Exchange Trophy, the Betfair Exchange Trophy, beating One More for the Road and Gary Claremont and Samarive, and I think Goshen might have run in it as well. Some really good horses in the Betfair Exchange Trophy, and he beat them off a £6 higher mark. Surely that's where he goes. This wasn't a bad race either. Westcourt, Adagio, No Ordinary Joe, Campron, Tritonic, the Greatwood Hurdle in 2021. Westcourt obviously could have gone on. Adagio has sadly passed away, but I thought he could have been a champion hurdle horse. Campron is the favourite for the Coral Cup, looks really well handicapped. And then we see Tritonic. So I hope they don't persevere with Tritonic over hurdles this season anymore. They wait, they put him back on the flat, they target the Goodwood Qatar Festival, there's a race that he could win there, and then come back for these 2 races next year where I'd be keen on him off his low mark. The next horse I want to talk about is Cormier, who disappointed in the Kelso More Battle Hurdle. He won it last year, probably came into it in a bit better form. You know what, he did come into it in better form. He'd won at Cheltenham over 2 mile before winning the More Battle Hurdle. He then finished 7th in the County Hurdle. Never actually looked like he was going to win that. Whereas this year he came in off the back of an unseat over fences and a 3rd over fences. So he switched discipline. And I don't think that quite worked on the first time back. But I wouldn't give up on him. The handicapper was quite generous, I thought. He dropped him £4 to 134. Now, if he ran at Cheltenham, he would have to run off 136 because that's the handicap mark that he's been given, or had been given. So I don't think they'll run in the County Hurdle off 136. Whereas I wouldn't be against him going back for the Swinton Hurdle, which is at Haydock over 2 mile. He unseated last year, and at the time was near the back of the field. But for me, he was just starting to pick up. And it was a race that suited those who ran at the front anyway. And yeah, I just think he was just starting to pick up. And if he was and did run on, then he probably would have gone quite close there. Off a much lower mark this year, or a few pound lower mark. I think he went up to 137 maybe. So he's £5 lower this year. I'd be very keen on him in the Potemps Swinton. I think is the race where he should be aimed at next. Forget Cheltenham. The Kelso Hurdle should have been the guide that he's not ready for Cheltenham. The County Hurdle, he's not going to win that off 136. The final horse I want to talk about is good old Sporting John. You can actually see that he's got an entry at Cheltenham in a... What is this? The 2 mile 5 what? Is it the Coral Cup? It is the Coral Cup. Now that's interesting. I hope they skip that. I hope they wait for Aintree with him. That's what I've put in my tweet here. Wait for Aintree. The last time he actually ran in a handicap over hurdles, over 3 mile, he won off 151. He's now down to 147 over hurdles. If we look at the race that he won, it was this race here at Warwick. He beat the Jam Man, he beat Third Wind, he beat Sire de Burley, and he beat Alaphilippe. Well, Sire de Burley was a former Potemps final winner, and Third Wind and Alaphilippe went and finished 1st and 2nd in the Potemps final after that. It was quite a good race anyway. And yeah, I think Sporting John just needs to go back over hurdles, back into a handicap, back over 3 mile, and I think that Potemps final would really suit him. You know, they've generally been going 3 mile with him, which is why I think he probably wants 3 mile, and 2 mile 5 in the Coral Cup might just be a bit sharp. Plus, JP McManus already has Iroko, who's an interesting one, and Campront, who's the favourite for the Coral Cup. Why run another well-handicapped horse in the Coral Cup when you've already got a couple that look quite interesting? Talking of the Coral Cup, Dan Skelton has been on a Ladbrokes podcast or YouTube video, whatever you want to call that, and he suggested that Langadan will probably run in the Coral Cup this year, which is great. We highlighted him way back yonder for the Coral Cup rather than the Martin Pipe, purely because Harry Skelton could ride. I'm just going to load up the odds for those 2 races. Yeah, I think that they've kind of given up or run out of time with him for the Martin Pipe. They've got to try and win a Cheltenham race with him this year. The best way of doing that is to put your best jockey on in Harry Skelton, and that would be in the Coral Cup. So if I just move the odds for the Coral Cup over, you can see Langadan is 10 to 1 here. And we've also highlighted Campront before for this race. And as being well handicapped. So those two are very interesting. With that in mind, there's another race that's interesting, and that is the Martin Pipe. So in the Martin Pipe, I had written down 4 for the race. They were Langadan, who now looks like he's going to the Coral Cup, which is good. Cool Survivor, Might I, and Favori de Champdou. Now, Favori de Champdou, again on a Nick Luck podcast today, I think it was Michael O'Leary, has suggested that Favori de Champdou will be running in the Albert Bartlett, and Cool Survivor will be running in this race. So that leaves us, as I said, with Langadan not running, Favori de Champdou not running. It leaves us with Cool Survivor and Mai Tai. I think this is the perfect trip for Mai Tai. Plus, he's got the jockey on board who's ridden him a couple of times. He knows how to ride Mai Tai. He probably gave him a poor ride last time, over 2 mile, when he stays further than that, and then they dropped him back, having been over 3 mile. The 2.5 mile trip will be perfect for him. And Cool Survivor, I can't get away from this little bit of stats here. This is Gordon Elliott with Gigginstown. Fell, second, third, first, third, second. That's brilliant. He's won it with Blow by Blow and Champagne Classic. He's had Dallas to Picton and Deafy Blue finish second and third. His faller was Column of Fire, who went off favourite and looked like he was coming there to win. I mean, that stat there probably suggests that if they do run Cool Survivor, which I think they will, he's going to go very, very close. So they would be my 2 for the Coral Cup. You know, much more confident on those 2 running now, rather than being on the 4. So if you haven't been listening to my videos and you wasn't sure and you haven't had a bet in this race yet, Cool Survivor and Mai Tai would be the strong ones in the Martin Pipe. So that's the latest handicap marks and a little bit about the Coral Cup and the Martin Pipe. I will be doing another video hopefully today about Cheltenham Festival Day 1, as we've now got closer to the entries. Obviously there's still, we'll be here Sunday, I think we'll hear the first day final declarations, but we've got the confirmations for the race. So look out for that video.